I don't know what the problem is, Doctor. It's this time of the year. Everybody's festive. I just can't join the party. There's something missing in my life.
Xbox Game Pass!
Yeah, boy! Hey, Larry, what about games?
Games! Oh, you want games?
Just Blaze. Oh, baby.
Welcome back to Foxy Games UK. I'm Foxy, your source of regular, reliable gaming news and rumour. It is Monday, November 12. How are we all doing today? I've got to tell you what a miserable, dank, dreary, dull day it is here in the UK. Hopefully Foxy Games can heat things up a little with some PS5 news and the XO18 Xbox event showcase opinion. I purposely refrain from uploading or streaming immediately post XO18 event, as there's always a tendency to over or at least underreact. So after giving it around 48 hours, I think I'm in a place where I can do so without bias and determine where I think Microsoft is taking Xbox in terms of the big picture and overall strategy, my personal thoughts on the events, and of course you'll have your own opinion on the XO18 event too, with some really describing it as nothing more than a 2-hour Game Pass commercial, while others take a more, shall we say, forgiving view in that Microsoft are setting things up for the future. Still, as always, the video game landscape can be a polarizing place, much discourse in its discussion. So, XO18, did Microsoft's messaging succeed or fail? Certainly from my perspective, XO18 was a pretty solid event, though putting aside DLC updates to already released titles and diluting the plethora of multi-platform titles on display, we were ultimately left with Microsoft's not so subtle ambition to convert as many Xbox users to the company's Netflix-like Game Pass service as possible. It's clear this company wants everybody on Game Pass eventually, and no matter what device you're using. Indeed, I concur, the entire event truly did feel like a super extended Game Pass commercial, and yep, sure, one could argue Microsoft needs to push Game Pass as hard as possible, but I gotta say, hard as possible shouldn't mean ramming the narrative down our throats. For one, anything objectable being shoved down your cake hole is bound to make you feel a little nauseous. The leak that preceded the XO18 event was pretty spot on though, the likes of Crackdown 3 updates, State of Decay 2 updates, Sea of Thieves updates, Forza Horizon 4 updates, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think you get the picture. And there was ID at Xbox and a barrage of third-party multi-platform titles with various Xbox marketing deals in place, and not forgetting those keyboard and mouse games, as well as 16 titles added to Game Pass, and the 2 new studio acquisitions, InXL and Obsidian, neither of which have had a hit in years, but perhaps Microsoft can change that. XO18 seemingly had the most enthusiastic crowd in the world.
Deep questions you want answered. Even when we're broadcasting from the studio, which is very different from this, the community is always part of the show.
Yeah, that crowd seemed suspiciously manufactured to me, like an episode of any X Factor or Pop Idol you can care to mention. They were clearly being instructed and cued by Microsoft's crowd control handlers to literally cheer anything. Seriously. Tumbleweed could have slowly rolled across the stage, this crowd would have gotten pumped. Somebody on stage could have quite literally announced, Phil Spencer has a cold, and the Mexico City-based crowd would have shouted, Phil has flu! Phil has flu! Because if you're gonna suffer with a common cold, you might as well go big, right? True 4K HDR enabled influenza, anybody? Vicks Vapor Rub humor aside, XO18 was okay, just okay, but after all that hype, I can totally understand people really felt a little disappointed, which is why I went to great pains to tell my Xbox owning subscribers to temper expectations going into this event. Specifically, don't let the PR machine build you up just to let you down. Now the following is from a recently published article post XO18 from gamingbolt.com, and many other media outlets share the view that Brand X showed nothing new from Microsoft's first-party portfolio, nothing new from any third-party. Even the new looks really that we got have previously been announced games that were short of any excitement. Just Cause 4 looked great, but nothing that we saw was entirely new. Jump Force looked great, but again nothing new. Kingdom Hearts 3 was the lone exception here, showing a new Winnie the Pooh trailer and looking great in the process. Even the updates updates for Microsoft's games? Well, they were all announced really for stuff that was already out. So a new update for Sea of Thieves, as I mentioned, and State of Decay 2, Forza Horizon 4, all good, but what about maybe giving us more of a look at Ori and the Will of the Wisps? Why not show us more of Gears 5? We knew Halo Infinite was not going to be at the show, but why not any of the others? A lot of the show was focused on Game Pass, which is what Microsoft sees as an integral part of its future strategy, though Xbox head Phil Spencer was very careful to note that it's not a replacement for the traditional console gaming model. There were 60 new games announced for the service, including Ori, its upcoming sequel, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which again is great, but nothing new. Microsoft even announced a bunch of great Black Friday deals in a comically hilarious kind of skit like you get your average commercials, used car salesman type stuff, including price drops across the whole Xbox One range, bringing the Xbox One X down to its lowest price. Price reductions on controllers, Game Pass, and even games. A bunch of new titles, mostly from Square Enix, were also announced for backward compatibility, all of which was fine. The thing is, in terms of the scope of what was shown off and their significance to Xbox in terms of where it stands in the market today, this was a short-term show. There's nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever, but Microsoft has monthly updates to keep players updated on its short-term outlook for games. You can use Twitter to announce say hardware regarding controllers and their services, and really this was just a big blown up version of that, which is where the problem is. The show was billed as a major event with major announcements, but we really didn't get much of that. We got some cool stuff, and Xbox fans and owners will probably be happy at the updates we did get a look at, but there was no one really, or nothing, show-stopping moment that really justified this being its own event beyond an Inside Xbox episode, which I'm trying to say is Microsoft mismanaged expectations. The closer to the show was Microsoft announcing more studio acquisitions, and they were pretty major ones. Microsoft's great big weakness in terms of first-party output has been meaningful single-player adventures, so that gap can be now filled. This was a good announcement, but it didn't feel like it needed an entire 2-hour conference. Microsoft could have just announced it in a video release or a regular Inside Xbox, or maybe via a press release. The end result would have been the same. Right now the excitement is almost tempered by the feeling of minor disappointment from the rest of the show. In the end, there was nothing wrong with the XO18 in and of itself. It was fine, but Microsoft promised more than fine, and a short-term look at their future felt a bit deflating after all that. Interesting. Now the full article is available in this video's description for your perusal. So here's the thing. Here's my take. Reading between the XO18 lines, it's abundantly obvious that Microsoft are kind of done with this generation, though I am slightly disappointed. Microsoft did not take the opportunity to hit a home run, even though it was in Mexico. Team X could have showed target footage, CGI trailers, talked a little bit about their cloud-assisted gaming tech, not a whisper on Xbox Scarlet, nor Xbox Scarlet Stream Edition, and no Halo, Gears, or Fable anything. Sony's PlayStation experience isn't happening this year, so this was prime time for Xbox. A wasted opportunity, though. I look forward to your thoughts in the comments. And now for some PlayStation 5 related news. The first AMD Navi GPU will have 40 compute units and is internally codenamed Navi 12. The GPU will have 40 CUs. If the ratio of stream processors in the CU is the same as that of the GCN, then you are looking at 64 CUs each for a grand total of 2,560 stream processors. This is going to be positioned as the upgrade path for Polaris 30 and will likely feature in the Radeon 600 series. It's probably wise not to expect a flagship GPU from AMD until at least 2020, with Vega designed specifically for Apple and Navi designed specifically for Sony's incoming PlayStation 5. The question that immediately springs to mind is whether this is the GPU we can expect to see featured, and the short answer is no. The Navi 12 is not going to be the GPU that gets featured in PlayStation 5. It's a derivative of the actual Navi die and has been created specifically so AMD can get it to market for the PC audience primarily. Navi will be a new microarchitecture. In words, the first AMD Radeon UART to be based really not on the GCN architecture at all, but this is going to be the same IP that powers the succeeding Navi dies such as Navi 10 and Navi 20. Navi 12 GPUs will have 40 compute units, as I say, which is uncertain at this conjecture is whether this is going to have the same number of stream processors as the GCN does, in which case the core count is going to be 2,560 stream processors. This does not seem likely to be the case because the card is expected to slot in somewhere around the Vega 56, depending on the clock rate, though much cheaper. How this all relates to PS5 and to some extent Xbox Project Scarlet is AMD's projected roadmap. For a start, Vega 7nm will not be coming to gamers. Navi 12 will be the first Navi part to arrive and will be landing sometime in early 2019. Navi 10 has either been scrapped or will follow later, sometime in late 2019 or early 2020, obviously dependent on a number of factors. The performance level of this part is equivalent to Vega and will be a small GPU based on the 7nm process. Navi 20 is going to be the true high-end GPU built on the 7nm node, and as things stand right now, you are tentatively looking at it landing sometime around late 2020 to 2021. Navi will also be the first architecture to transition away from GCN, and along with it the 4096SP/64 compute unit limit that is inherent to the UARCH implementation. Next-gen architecture is the UARCH formerly codenamed Kuma internally before AMD decided they didn't like the name too much and will really base on the same brand new major architecture that AMD rolls out with Navi. Now, if this all means nothing to you, welcome to the club. The key takeaway is that Vega is highly unlikely to feature in next-gen consoles. Level entry, Navi and enhanced Polaris GPUs are still on the table. I have to be candid with you. In fact, in terms of in-depth tech analysis, it's not really my forte. I prefer to lay it off to you in a more digestible form. It's all information waveform, but I prefer to avoid relaying confusing jargon, so I'll stay in my own lane, leaving this sort of thing to PC and next-gen console-centric YouTuber Mads Gaming, who I thank for turning me on to this particular article yesterday, and out of respect for the fact that he brokered the news on his channel first, I thought it prudent to wait at least 24 hours before uploading on this channel, so huge shout out to Mads. And as usual, a link to all content covered today can be found in the video's description when and where applicable. And while you're there, share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, because that unfortunately brings us to the end of another video, but let's continue the discussion in the comments. And for more regular PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch and next-gen news updates, subscribe to Foxy Games UK and remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss content. Thumbs up if you like it here, and help us reach more like-minded gamers simply by sharing the video. And if you really like what I do, consider supporting Foxy Games UK via Patreon, and or grab yourself a Foxy Games UK branded t-shirt or hoodie available in white, grey and military green. You'll find both Patreon and Foxy Games UK branded clothing links in this video's description. I really appreciate all the support. And that concludes our time together today on this dreary Monday, but it was great hanging out with you. So until the next video, always remember, play games, not corporations.